Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Coach Steve Show podcast. Make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, and then please follow it and rate it wherever you listen to your podcast. Please leave a rating and a review on iTunes and Apple. You can do it on Spotify as well, but do it on Apple. Helps grow the show tremendously. Please and thank you. Check out Belly Up Media Network at bellyupsports.com to check out other blogs, podcasts, and everything. So there's not just sports, but there's other stuff there too. Go check all that out, please, and thank you. We are continuing on this podcast with another segment of summer football and what goes into summer football and different things. And today is going to be about 7-on-7, one of everybody's greatest things to talk about. And we are going to talk about that now. So, part of summer, we talked about your offensive organization, your defense organization, and then just organizing the schedule in general. When you go into the summer, you have to make a decision as a coach. Are you going to compete in 7-on-7s? Are you going to do that with your team? There are 7-on-7 tournaments that go around. I'm not talking about that. You can go two different things. Us personally, we just did a 2-day 7-on-7. You play 3 games on a Wednesday, 3 games on a Thursday. Those are fine. But when you travel around the country, that's where people get problems with 7-on-7. So when you go in and you're the head football coach, sit down. If you're the offensive coordinator, you talk with yourself. If you have your offensive coordinator, you sit down and say, okay, 7-on-7s. Are you going to do them? People have different opinions on this. I have been a part of teams where we did no 7-on-7s. We did none. I've been a part of teams where we did 1. I've been a part of teams where we've done 1 and done joint practices, which is a whole different other thing we'll talk about later. I've been a part of where we went every weekend. Almost every weekend we went and played 7-on-7. Now, different people have different opinions on this, so we're going to talk about it. 7-on-7, obviously, is 7 versus 7. You're going to have your quarterback, your running back, and then you've got different receivers out there, and you probably have a snapper. Defense is going to have linebackers, corners, safeties, everything else. So it's literally playing the game without your defensive lineman and your offensive lineman. Yes, you will even use hand-down tight ends in this. Yes, if you're an I formation team, people go out there in high formation and they practice that type of stuff. So we're going to talk about, when you look at playing 7-on-7, the good, the bad. Part of the good thing about 7-on-7, you get to compete. And the reason why we play sports is to compete, whatever it is, baseball, soccer, track, football, basketball, all that stuff. You are looking to compete. So depending on how you set it up, if you have different camps before you go into 7-on-7, you're looking to compete and have these kids go against different kids other than the ones that you are putting out there. So when you go into the summer, you go, okay, we want to compete. We want to have fun. Kids like to throw the football around. We get to go against a different type of team. We're going to see different types of coverages. So let's go to the 7-on-7. It does have competitiveness in it, and it's good for them to be competitive. Another good thing about it is it gives different experiences, especially if you go play teams you never played before and you may never play. If you go to, some don't even have quote unquote tournaments. They just invite probably 6 teams and say, okay, we're each going to get 3 games. You're going to play each team once. So it is, but it isn't. It's mainly to have fun and have competition. The one I was at was organized by like the Chicago Bears and their program and everything. So you really competed for something. It's for more fun and everything else. You go because you could look and see who's going and say, well, we'll never play this team. Even if we make the playoffs, we'll never play this team. So it's cool to see what other people do. And this is talking about for players. Then as coaches, it kind of helps you with play calling. You're seeing coverage, learning play calls to get back in the groove in the summer. It allows you to see who you're going to have if you're a younger team. It allows you to see if you have a quarterback battle going on, running back battle, wide receiver, anything like that. And again, when you're installing things in the summer, yeah, you're kind of going full go, but you're doing a lot of walkthroughs. So this is a great opportunity to have another team do that. Maybe you're a defense that doesn't necessarily get hands-on right away, but you go up against a defense that is. Maybe you don't play a lot of man in practice, but you go against a team that plays man. It allows you to, get into that playbook and see what they have and everything. So it all goes back to competitiveness. It allows coaches to work together, allows them to get back in the groove of play calling. All good things, all very good things. some cons. We always go in. What's one thing in football that every team's going to do besides Coach Leach? Run the football. One of the things I know from coaching defenses, linebackers is, especially inside backers, you got to play the run. You got to play the run first. You got to take your read steps because they're reading linemen, or some are teaching them to read the running backs. Whatever they teach them to read, they have to take those steps to read them. So you're hoping in 7-on-7, they're still going to do their steps. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, in 7-on-7, some tournaments like we were in, you could run it until you got to the 10-yard line. Once you got inside the 10, you couldn't run the football anymore. So this, you still had to do your read keys, which I like. But the 7-on-7s that don't do that, they're just passing. You will slowly build up those bad habits in the summer, and they can continue into your camp, and you're going to get frustrated. As coaches, we would like to think that they're going to take their read steps because that's what they're told to do. And, they're going to be okay with doing that and getting burned and then complaining about a guy running around behind them. You'd think that would be the case. But think about your competitive juices. Think about what you would do. Oh, all they're going to do is pass. Well, I'm dropping. Okay, you're dropping. So you're not working on the read steps that you're supposed to do. You're not, but you can't blame them. There's nothing to look at. There's no lineman. There's no nothing. So that's one of the cons of 7-on-7 when you're looking at it from a defensive perspective. Another thing that's bad about 7-on-7 from an offensive perspective is, again, maybe they're not doing man-to-man pressure and they're off, and so for quarterbacks, they're just going to look at the deep ball and throw because they're trying to, quote unquote, win already. So they build that bad habit of just throwing the deep ball and maybe not going through their progression because they're starting to panic because they get the 2 to 3 seconds and it's 7-on-7 and they want to sling it. Another thing, your running backs, similar type of offense you have, do they do a lot of check releases? Well, they're not always going to do check releases because there's nobody there to block. Again, you'd like to think they run up, they settle, and then they go because that's what us coaches told them to do it, and that's what they think. That's not always the case. So it will build bad habits doing that you have to break going back into camp. So again, positive and negatives to it. Another negative, and it's not the kid's fault, it's the coaches. So here's what I mean by that. I've always been a part of coaching staffs, no matter what. And no matter what type of 7-on-7 we ever did, if we did any, was we are only going to run the coverages that are going to be our base coverages. We are only going to run our pass plays that are going to be our simple pass plays. And we don't do anything else. There are coaches that I know for a fact that go to 7-on-7 and they have a playbook just for 7-on-7 that they got from some travel 7-on-7 they were part of before or somebody gave them because they would rather win. And I don't know what you're winning. Now, if you're playing for money and this and that, now a real 7-on-7, you're on the sideline. They can't come to you. You're sealing in. You're telling a kid whatever type of offense you're on, you're sending it, however you do it. But you can't be out there telling them. It eliminates the coaches doing this stuff. But I've seen it where you go and you're just playing 3 teams or maybe just 2 teams or just 1 team. You're going there and you're playing 7-on-7 and you're getting varsity and JV and anything like that. They will literally have a playbook just for 7-on-7s. And they huddle up with the coaches so they can show them because they're allowed to. You also see defensive coaches literally drop everybody back. They will be sometimes 5 safeties out of the 7. They will have 5 and then 2 right there in the middle just to collide with the middle. That's what they will do. They'll drop 8 guys. They'll drop all 7 deep and just keep everything in front because of the rules. To me, that's a complete and utterly waste of time. And it's a waste of time because you could be using that time at that 7-on-7 actually having a camp and actually working on what you're going to work on for your season on defense. But you're going to this and saying, well, I want to win, whether money's involved or anything like that. You just want to sit there and say that you guys won stuff. Now, flip side of this, winning builds confidence. And we all know this. It does build confidence. But those kids will smell the BS right away. These kids are not dumb. They are not dumb. They will sniff out stuff like that in a heartbeat, So so coaches sometimes ruin this. They really do, because when they come out and they say, okay, we can stand by them, we have this playbook, and they literally show them, and or maybe they're just drawing stuff up trying to tell them, cool. But are these the plays that you're running in your season? No, probably not. I literally kid you not. I've seen coaches when I was in high school and then after who literally have a binder that says 7-on-7 plays. And they would come out in 4 wide, 5 wide, and that's what they ran. Then in the season, they were a triple option or a wing T team. They did not just come out of the woodwork and say, right after those 7-on-7s, we're a wing T team. No, they were a wing T team going into it, but they said they are competitive and they want to win, which we all do. Cool. I understand that. But they went in and said, we would rather do this, and not like, you're not working on the things to get better. And that's where some of the issues come with 7-on-7. And again, starts with coaches. It always starts with coaches. When coaches ruin this stuff, and that makes it about them at the end of the day, to try to say, I can draw up a better defense than you, I can draw up a better offense than you. So I've been very, very fortunate. Even in my worst staff's toxic type of staff, football-wise, not people-wise, football coaches staff that I've been on, which one day I will probably tell the full story on this podcast about one of my worst coaching experiences. Even those, and we went to a 7-on-7, at least we worked on what we were doing. As an offensive coordinator, we went to a 7-on-7, and I said, we have these plays in during camp. This is what we're doing, and we're focusing on the reads. We can alter routes, obviously, when they come off to the sideline and talk to me. I could say, okay, so when we do this, I'll tag a post, or we're going to change the depth. Those type of things I have no problem with, because that's what you're going to do in a game. In a game, you will alter that stuff. You might say, hey, you know what? My route's normally 10. This is where he is. Bring it to an 8 or vice versa. That's the type of stuff I did when I was an offensive coordinator at 7-on-7. The head coach, I was a defensive guy. Still, he was like, okay, cover 2, we got to do this. You can make tweaks, but it was never, hey, let's just drop 4 guys back all the time. But this is not what we do. Let's just drop 5 back. This is not what we do. So at least on those staffs where things were not the best and things were done wrong, at least those people had the thought and the rationale to say, we're going to work on what we're working on. So when you're going into your summer and you're figuring this out, schedule 7-on-7s. They're there for that reason. Like, I'm not saying don't schedule 7-on-7s. I am just saying, when you go into it, how much are you going to put into it? I think you should do 1 or 2 for the competitiveness, something else. Just to kind of see where you're at. Especially if you do a week of camp or week and a half or whatever, and you're really working on your route running, you're really working on bumping people off when you're a corner or safety, you're working on your drops. That's all good. Film it so they can show it. But what would scare me even for that as a defensive guy is your linebackers are just not going to read the run. They're going to drop back in passes. Same thing with your safeties. Sometimes they'll just bail because team's just going to run vertical because 7-on-7 and it's vertical. So they want to throw because it's unrealistic. It's unrealistic. That's why it's great to stand there and have a quick 3 count, because normally you're going to have your offensive lineman moving up there. You're going to have the defensive line moving. It's not, that's another part of it is your safeties are going to open their hips and go. They're not going to settle. They're really worried about, this. Now, keep flipping sides here. Sometimes it's good to go to 7-on-7, see those mistakes, you have it on film, you go back, say, this is what you're doing. So when you get to actual team and you're in your practice and you have your defense, offensive line, and a run game to worry about, it'll stick in their mind saying, okay, I was making these mistakes, so I won't. So there's good and bad, but you have to decide how many 7-on-7s you're going to do. Me personally, I would find a tournament and go. So you play probably like we did. We had 6 games in 3 days, something like that, or a tournament where you're going to go play 3 or 4 in that one day and be done. The ones that get scheduled where it's just another team, that you're going to play against a couple times, or maybe they've only got 4 teams. At that point, I would say just to do a joint practice, which I'll talk about in a different episode for the summer. But that's the thing you have to decide in the summer what type of 7-on-7s you're going to do. I wouldn't go traveling all over the place. I wouldn't go to other states and everything else. I would try to keep it really with the high school. But that's just what you have to think about when it comes to 7-on-7. So as a head coach, offense coordinator, defense coordinator, make that decision. If 7-on-7 is worth going to, or should you just have camp, or should you try a joint practice? That's up to you. But there are goods and bads to 7-on-7. So you have to decide, is this worth going? Are you a new program and think it's worth going? Or is it something that you think competitively you'll get an advantage with your kids? It's all good things, but there's also some bad things. But just knowing the disadvantages of it and the advantages of it really helps you in scheduling and making that decision about 7-on-7. Thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. Please hit the like button and the subscribe button. Leave a review on iTunes and Apple. You can do it on Spotify as well. If you want to be on the podcast, shoot me a message at coach_Steve72 on Twitter. Send me a message. We'll get it set up before all of us coaches get too busy. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Check out all the other episodes. Check out coaches' interviews coming out, all that good stuff. So this has been another episode of the Coach Steve Show podcast with our summer football segment. Thank you guys so much. Again, go do all that for me, please. And thank you. Check out all the affiliates in the description below as always. And we will see you next time.